Okay, the next thing we're doing is we're getting our tool for underneath our little cap sleeve. I've cut a long strip here about 20 centimetres wide, and right now Mum is doing a gathering stitch across the top, as you can see here. Just to give it a bit of flounce around the sleeves. Okay, having done our cap sleeves, I've run an overlocking stitch over the inside, and this will be the outside of the cap sleeve. Now we're going to put on our netting, and there's two different types of gathering that will be done because we're having two different layers. The layer underneath has a lot of gathering, and the layer on the top doesn't have so much. So we're going to start with the top layer first, and I'm going to pin it about 3 inches from the bottom, because the bottom of the cap sleeve doesn't have any tool on at all. So we're going to do a very small gather, not too much gathering on the net. So about every 3 centimetres, put in a pin to hold it, and then just pull the netting out slightly and put another pin. Okay, we've now gone all the way to the end, and we've left about 3 inches at the bottom end. As you can see, it's a very, very light gather that I've done across the top. So where my double pin is there, that's just my mark so that I can cut the net off. Okay, there you go. Okay, now we're going to put on the second layer of tulle. This will be the underside of the sleeve. So I fastened off the thread there to hold it so it doesn't come undone. Now we're going to start on the second layer. So where you started last time, put that on the top, move your pin to hold both layers down. Now we're going to have a little bit more gathering on this one because we want it to stick out a little bit underneath. So a medium sort of gather, not too tight, not too loose. Bring that along to the next pin. Take the pin out and put it back in over both layers. And go on to the next one. Pull out some gathering to the next pin. Take that pin out and then pin both layers down to the cap sleeve and carry on like that all the way to the end. Right, I've threaded up some contrasting thread basically so I can see where I'm going to be sewing. I'm just going to run a running stitch now through all the layers just to hold it, so then I can take the pins out. Okay, I've now put a running stitch across all the layers, and if I turn it that way you'll be able to see what is going on. There's my running stitch that's holding all the layers down, and these are the two layers that we're going to be working with. This top layer is the one that had hardly any gathers in at all, and then the layer underneath has a lot more gathers. The reason for this is when the cap sleeve is put onto the bodice, we want the gather tool to lie a little bit flat, but not too flat. So by making a tight layer on the top, that will help to hold all the gathers down. You'll be able to see this later when it's actually on the bodice. And we purposely cut the tool far longer than we needed to fit on the arm, so that we can shape it later on and make it a little bit shorter. And then the top layer of tool will be about 2 inches shorter than the bottom layer, and I should be showing you how to do that later. Okay, this is the front of the bodice, and I'm just attaching the cap sleeve now onto the armhole. And there are two different patterns for making the cap sleeve. There's a short side, which is this one, that goes to the front, and then there's a long one, and that goes to the back. What I'm going to do now is just pin it into place along the armhole opening. Okay, I've pinned the cap sleeve now in place on the sleeve edge, and I shall run a tacking thread all the way around to hold all the layers in place, and then going right on the edge I shall sew the whole lot down on the sewing machine all the way around. Okay, at this stage the ruffles and the cap sleeve have now been sewn onto the edge of the bodice, and the two layers now have been split. So the bottom layer, which has the most ruffles, has been cut straight, and then the top layer that doesn't have so many ruffles starts down at the same angle but goes up and is short by about 2 inches when it gets to the top. And then if you go around the back without the head trace, thank you, go around the back, you can see that the top layer comes around and then it will meet at the base where the second layer is. And at the moment we're just doing a practice piece with the lacy front. We've cut out a scrap piece of lace into the shape more or less that what we need before it's actually put onto the proper lace and cut out.
Okay, just a quick show of my lace for the front of my bodice. I'll be cutting 2 of these because there's actually 2 layers of lace, one slightly higher and one just peeking out from below it. So I'll have 2 of these, and then these are my back pieces, and that will be where the back of the bodice will be, where the zip will go. And again, I've cut another one of these, another one of these, so I've got 4 of these all together. And then that'll be joined here to the front piece like so. So you get your front piece, and then that'll be attached to there, and the same on the other side, and then the same for the other layer as well.
Okay, now we're going to scallop the edge of the bottom piece of tool, which is just going to be scalloped but without the edging. But what we're going to do is use our edging as a template just to cut out the scallops on the edge. So we've just pinned this all the way around, what we're going to do now is just cut out the bottom part of the scallop only, and then we'll take the template off.
Okay, I'm now sandwiching my two pieces of lace together, the bottom and the top layer, like so. I've started off by putting it central in the middle, make sure they both meet, and then work it outwards from centre to the end. I'll just put pins in at this point just to hold it there while I take it to the machine and sew it about a centimetre in. Just above where I've put my pins. Now I'll anchor those two pieces together then. Back in a moment. Okay, here's my finished piece of lace. The two layers sewn together, and I've got some little tiny ribbon roses and I've sewn those on. The next thing to do is sew this to the top of your bodice.
Okay, now we can get on to finishing the bodice, now that we've got the zip. And I always leave putting in the zip until last, because then you can make any last minute alterations and you can get the bodice to fit a little bit tighter. So for Tracy's bodice, I'm using a 7-inch open-ended invisible zip, and you will have to measure your bodice to see which length of zip you will need. Because Tracy's back is so small, we've had to do quite a severe angle, as you can see, because she's very, very narrow at the waist. So what I will do now is I will cut this off here, neaten it, and then I should be sewing the zip in, and so you can have an idea of how the zip goes in. This is the proper way, like that. So the zip will be sewn on right up against the teeth on that side, and then if we go over to this side, this will be what it looks like when it's finished. Let me just try and turn that over. There we go, like that. So the teeth have to be facing inwards, and then you'll be sewing right next to the teeth.
Basically, you just pick up a crystal like so, the shiny bit facing up, and in there the special glue is melting. And then you just press your wand onto where you want it to glue, then only gently press it, quickly lift it off, and there it is. What I tend to do after is find it, just give it a little push with my thumb anyway, just to make sure that it's sticking, and there we go. I did some earlier on here as well. Like so, and then you will do the same for your skirt as well, because on the skirt you have an overlay of net, and for those I've used a 3.2mm hot fix Swarovski crystal, so just slightly bigger than the ones I'm using on the sleeves here. I'll show you that in a moment. Okay, the next thing you might want to do is to decorate the tool with your little flat back crystals. I've gone for the Swarovski flat back in size 3.2mm, SS12 as they're called, in a clear crystal. I also have this special one that I bought to apply the crystals that's just heating up. I give it at least 3 to 4 minutes to get really, really hot, because that's what you need, because it melts the glue on the back of the crystals. Also, I'll be using this for the tulle overlay on my skirt and the overlay on the bustle train later on. So I'll explain in a minute. It's very quick and easy to use.